Hi, this is Benjamin, founder of Farmagain. As you know, Grotron, which is our flagship product, the greatest technology for precision agriculture, was selected as one of the top 100 innovations of India in the year 2023. Now, the glory did not stop there. Now, we have actually taken this to the Middle East, also to the Southeast Asian countries. Specifically, I wanted to share a very happy news. On the 15th of August this year, a few days back, in Indonesia, in a farm owned by the horticulture research arm of the government, we installed Grotron. And on the 15th of August, the agriculture minister of the country inaugurated the farm and also mentioned that Indonesia as a country is moving towards technology driven precision agriculture with the help of tools like Grotron. So, really happy to have been able to take Grotron, which was developed completely indigenously in India, to outside of India, and again specifically as a tool to improve their productivity and help supply nutrition and help plants reach their genetic capacity. A small comparison on productivity between India and Indonesia on coconut. Their average productivity is somewhere around 60 to 65 nuts per tree per year. But we know ours is definitely double or more than double of that. The only reason for that is here we do largely drip irrigated coconut farming with ventures driven fertilizer applications, little more scientific than how it is being done in Indonesia. Over there, mostly the crops are rain fed and the fertilizers are broadcasted. So when they broadcast the fertilizers, what really happens is that during the next spell of rain, most of the fertilizers broadcasted will get wiped off, and because of which the plants don't get the fertilizers they supplied, number one. Number two, the wiped off fertilizers finally end up into some reservoir. So it is a double whammy negative impact of the broadcasting of fertilizers. So with Grotron, you can actually convert the farm into drip irrigated farm and use Grotron to supply minerals as and when required, so that you can really hope to achieve the genetic capacity of the coconut farms in Indonesia as well. So now let's come back from Indonesia to India. In India, we have already done more than 2,500 acres of coconut farm automation with Grotron. And in the recent past, we have been specifically talking about how do you improve revenue in a coconut farm by several things. One of those happen to be intercropping, and we are specifically focusing on that subject. So today, we have come to a farm which is in Coimbatore district near Annur. It is a 7 acres coconut farm. So today we are going to delve into, if you had bananas in the crop, how could the revenues change and what should you really do to get into an intense banana intercrop in this farm. And that's a subject for the day. Let's get into the video. The owner of this farm is Mr. Anish. In fact, he is well connected with agriculture industry. His business also is related to agriculture. In fact, he is the dealer for Texmo pump for Annur, and he also is dealing with a battery powered brush cutter by a brand named Hycon. He is also trying to get into agro tourism, so that way he is connected in the agri industry. So we're going to meet him today. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Nice meeting you.
Yes, sir. Welcome to CKG Farms.
Thank you.
So you came and went for a walk around the farm, the coconut, 7-acre coconut farm. So what was your experience and what do you feel about a farm?
I think it is very well done. In fact, one thing I observed was you have done drip irrigation nicely. A lot of people actually take the drip very close to the trunk, but you haven't done that. You have kept the drip far away from the trunk,
Yes.
where the real active root zone is. So which is one good thing that I observed.
Yes.
Second, I think all the waste you generate in the farm, you're trying to decompose it within the farm itself. So I see trenches everywhere and filled with the waste from the trees, which is again a nice thing because you're generating more carbon perhaps and also more microbes. The only suggestion with respect to trenching and filling the trenches with the waste, bio waste, is that the decomposing that takes place on top is likely to be rich in carbon that your microbes might like, but the ones that decompose at the bottom of the trench may be anaerobic, which could lead to more leaching of carbon in the form of methane, and the microbes that are generated at the bottom could also be anaerobic, which are not really going to help your trees. So my suggestion is, if there is a feasibility of doing the same composting on top of the soil instead of in the trench,
It would be
maybe
better.
better. That's my suggestion.
Nearly like 5 years back, mostly we used to burn the dry leaves. So I want to make a change, and we introduced mulching. So initially, I got to know that putting up a trench and putting all the dry leaves in would stop the wastage and stop the burning. So initially we did that. Between every 2 rows, we put up a trench. and we put all the waste inside. So after a few days, I saw that in the other areas where it was left open, so I thought of putting mulch in that area. So only the heavy wood we put inside the trench, and remaining the leaves and all we put in the center of the tree. So the tree is nearly like 25 feet apart. So in between we put up this mulching setup. So initially, like you said, now we are changing from underground pit-based mulching to the upper mulching system.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, what you have done is already fantastic.
Okay.
I have no negative remarks about what you have done.
Okay.
Keeping it on top of the soil is going to only help or enhance a little more than what it is today.
Sir, in CKG farm, we are planning to put up a banana crop or nutmeg, like you mentioned, in as an intercrop. Putting banana in a raised bed format inside the coconut field, like what is your feedback about?
Yeah. See, any crop on a raised bed is going to perform exceptionally well. See, as far as banana is concerned, depending on the variety, you may choose different spacing.
Okay.
Anywhere between 7, 8 feet. Sometimes it goes all the way to 12. Right. Now, for most of the varieties, let's say 8 feet is the average spacing. You may have 3 rows in between 2 trees. Now, my suggestion is you have to have a raised bed which is about 1.5 foot raised from the surface.
From the ground.
And the top width should be somewhere around 3 feet.
Okay.
So you have enough space and the soil concentration, topsoil concentration for the banana trees, plants to actually grow their active root zone or the white roots all over. So when if you plant your plant banana on this, the penetration of white roots will take much longer than on a raised bed, because on a raised bed you're going to have very porous soil. Especially during the initial days of the plant, the growth of the white roots will be phenomenally great on a raised bed. In fact, my suggestion would be to add even mulch sheet on top of it, because when you add a mulch sheet, the initial days of the banana plantation, there will still be a lot of sunlight that falls on the ground. With that sunlight, there is a possibility that the even the raised bed might become a little hard. But if you have a mulch sheet, one, it does not allow the sun to directly go to the soil. So the hardening of the soil may not take place, number one, which will help the soil remain porous so that the roots can penetrate better. Number two, thankfully you don't have the sharp weeds. It's all leafy weeds. The second thing is you have only the leafy sort of weeds. So these weeds cannot penetrate the mulch sheet and come to the top. Therefore, you will also be weed free at the beginning when there is so much of sunlight. Of course, when the banana grows up, maybe a year from the day one of planting, the mulch will anyway disappear and you will have natural shade at the bottom. Until then, this mulch also can help a great deal.
Like we are using that black foil mulch sheet. Instead of that, can we use this organic waste as a mulching around the crop?
Okay, my view is that the bio waste is a great material for you to decompose and create more carbon and more microbes in the soil. But using that as a mulch sometimes could run you into a risk of more fungal. As the material decomposes, it could lead to fungal infection to the plants. Therefore, always the decomposing process, in my opinion, should happen little away from the plant, not right at the trunk or the root zone of the plant.
In a natural process, let's say in a forest or a place where it happens naturally, so most of the leaves fall and the decomposition process actually happens in that spot itself. So where does this, when we do it in our farm, so what does that impact it?
Okay, it's a very good question. When you see the leaves falling, like you said, in a forest, you don't dump them, right? I mean, they fall one by one, little by little. And as they fall, there is a natural decomposing process that takes place. And then on top of it, something falls. And they don't get water every day. They get water only when it rains, right? So therefore, the natural process is a slow and steady process where the possibility of fungal is very remote. But when we try to use natural biomass as mulch material, the problem is you will dump quite a lot on a soil, and right underneath you will have laterals through which we give artificial irrigation. Unlike nature where it gets water only when it rains, here you are going to give sufficient amount of water artificially. Therefore, too much of material dumped in one place unnaturally along with artificial irrigation will certainly lead to fungal. And this phenomenon does not happen in a natural forest. It is only a very slow accumulation of biomass.
Sir, we are going to do intercrop as banana as an intercrop in our field. So I'd like to know how would Grotron help in our farm?
Okay. As you know, the fundamental of Grotron is that it works on the principle of photosynthesis. If you want to just do farm automation, you have umpteen number of products out there in the market. But this technology is designed to follow the principles of photosynthesis.
Okay.
Which means during photosynthesis, the plants actually harvest sunlight and converts sunlight into energy. But for the plant to do that, it needs to have the right air-water balance, or in other words, the balance between the perfect moisture and the perfect aeration at the root zone.
Okay.
That's a primary requirement for a plant to actually participate in photosynthesis. Second, the plants need about 13 minerals. So you need to have the right balance of minerals that the plant need for the photosynthesis of that day. And of course, the plant also needs carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Carbon, it takes from the atmosphere, it is there in abundance. But the oxygen and hydrogen, again, the plant takes from the moisture you supply. Right now, in order to maintain the right air-water balance, it is humanly impossible to do it manually. Which is where our technology uses artificial intelligence to first read the data from the soil, atmosphere, and also some data it pulls from weather.com and accuweather.com. And the data is then processed using artificial intelligence, of course using the past data and the trend. And it will try to predict, if let's assume the moisture at this point in time is perfect, there is proper balance between air and moisture. It will try to predict when this balance will go out of control, meaning when the soil is likely to dry up. So the prediction could be that tomorrow by 11 in the morning, the moisture might dry up and there could be more air than the moisture at the root zone. If that is a prediction, then the system will take this data through a secondary prediction to understand if it is not supposed to dry at 11 in the morning, when and how long you should administer an irrigation so that it doesn't dry up at 11 in the morning. The inference of the AI engine could be that 8 o'clock for about 20 minutes. Then what will happen is our system will automatically turn on the valves and pump at 8 a.m. And do the irrigation for the part of the land where this irrigation was predicted. And during this irrigation, it will also send any dew fertigation so that you are fulfilling the theory of maintaining the right moisture at the root zone and giving the nutrition that the plant needs at the right time, which helps a plant to actually go towards its genetic potential.
In the Grotron, you first automate all the gate valves.
That is right.
And if there is less water or humidity in the soil, automatically it gets sensed and the water goes to that.
Exactly. And not just that, in fact, I saw you having 2 bore wells and a tank, which is source of irrigation. And I saw you running and turning off the pump because the tank was overflowing. If you have Grotron, you don't have to do that, because Grotron has the ability to maintain a certain level of water in the tank, which means if it goes below a threshold, it will turn on the bore wells, fill the tank, and when the tank is filled almost to the right level, will turn off the pump automatically. So you don't have to run around and do this operation.
Let's say we are in a rainy season and there's rain every day. So the Grotron senses that there's humidity in every field, there's good humidity, and the motor will not on that time.
It will not turn on. Not only that, say today, let's say the system predicted that maybe at 4 in the evening, it has to irrigate for about 30 minutes. But by that time, the weather forecast, let's say, is suggesting that there could be heavy rain at 8 p.m. Do you think irrigating at 4 p.m. is a sensible or a wise idea? No, right? It will not irrigate. So even though the first engine, AA engine, predicted that 4 p.m. there will be an irrigation, but then it corroborates that with the weather forecast. And if the forecast is suggesting that 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. there is going to be heavy rain, it will not even do the 4 p.m. irrigation.
So it gets the live forecast weather report and it does the irrigation.
Correct. And one more thing I want to tell you about Grotron is that the farms generally don't have the perfect quality of electricity normally, right? So what we did from day one is that our imagination was that we built a system which is not dependent on grid. So all the sensors and the valves are powered by a simple solar powered Grotron controller, which we install in different places in your farm. And it again, like plant doing photosynthesis, these Grotron devices also will harvest sunlight, store it in a battery. And with that power, it will be able to turn on the valves and supply enough power to the sensors. Now, we have also come out with the Grotron Series 4. And what Series 4 can do is that even the controller that you install near the pump with Series 4 does not require electricity. You can just connect a solar panel, or maybe if you would like to give a safe power supply, maybe you can, the cell phone charger. You can also connect a cell phone charger, and with that it will store power in battery, and with the battery power it will be able to turn on the pump, do all the sensing of your pond levels. So with Series 4 we have eliminated the need for electricity 100%. So
No.
It runs completely on solar energy.
Okay, it's sustainable.
Sustainable.
It produces its own
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah. Because on one hand we say we reduce water. On the other hand, we do not want to spend electricity that is largely produced with coal.
And one more question is, for every farmer, if we make an investment, we should see the return of investment.
Good
So
question.
like
Yeah.
when we implement Grotron,
Yeah.
so like how long will it, like in what ways
Yeah.
we can get a return of
Yeah,
investment back?
good question. So for coconut, we have proper data. Before we collected the data, we used to think it could take about 5 years. But after we consolidated the data, we figured out on an average, it only takes about 2 to 2.5 years for you to realize ROI, even without intercropping.
Okay. Sir, in what ways can we get a return of investment back?
Okay. So one, there is an increase in revenue because of better productivity. Second, you are going to require less labor force. I mean, today you already have no labor force available, but you are still going to require lesser only to fill the fertigation tanks.
Okay.
You don't need anybody to go run around and open the valves.
Gate valves.
That is number two. Number three, if you do manual fertilizer application, you are going to spend a considerable amount of money every year in just applying the fertilizers. So that is going to be a saving. The fourth, saving on the fertilizer itself, because when you do water soluble fertilizers, you are going to require much lesser than the granular soil application, because when you do soil application, most of the fertilizers, in fact, they change form to some other chemical and they are not really available for the plant to consume. But with water soluble or your organic, you are going to give the plant at more frequent basis, lesser quantity, so that the uptake by the plant is better and the quantity is lesser. So these are the four major avenues of cost saving, which leads to ROI. So I hope what we spoke today was useful to you.
Yes, sir. Sure.
And I'm also hoping it may have been useful to some of the viewers. And I hear from a lot of our farmers that they see my videos, and a lot of them have actually tried to implement a few parts of what I spoke. And I strongly encourage farmers to pick what they felt was applicable to them and implement at least in some small scale, because science is not going to fail you anytime. We will again come back to you with some other useful information. Until then, see you. Bye bye. See you soon.
Thank you.